Have you ever been in an argument that's just going nowhere? You've got all the facts, your logic is sound, but the other person just refuses to listen? It's one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. But what if there was a better way? A strategic, even philosophical way to handle these moments? Well, today we're going to dive into exactly that, using the wisdom of the great pessimist himself, Arthur Schopenhauer.
Mark Twain absolutely nailed this feeling, didn't he? It really can feel like a losing battle from the very start. But, this isn't just some witty comeback. It points to a much deeper truth about human nature, a problem that philosophers have been wrestling with for centuries. So we're going to explore why this happens and, more importantly, what we can actually do about it.
So let's start with Schopenhauer's diagnosis of the problem. Our guide here is a 19th century German philosopher who, let's just say, was not exactly an optimist about humanity. He basically believed that true intelligence is this rare and often painful exception to the rule of our otherwise irrational blind will.
And his definition of stupidity, it's really fascinating. For him, it's not about a lack of knowledge or education. He tells the story about a boy he saw in an asylum who was just mesmerized by his own reflection, totally unable to get that he was the one causing it. For Schopenhauer, that right there is the essence of foolishness, a basic failure to connect cause and effect.
And you can see how this plays out, right? When a mind can't really grasp causality, it just takes everything at face value. It makes a person incredibly susceptible to manipulation because they can't see the hidden motives, they can't see the strings being pulled. And so, their decisions are driven by pure impulse and emotion, not by any kind of long-term thinking.
Okay, so if that's the diagnosis, it suddenly makes perfect sense why our rational arguments so often fall completely flat. Simply laying out the facts and logic, the very tools of a reasonable person, is just doomed to fail. And this brings us to the core of the conflict.
Look at this comparison, because it reveals everything. The two people in the argument are playing completely different games with completely different goals. The intelligent person, they're trying to pursue truth, to get some clarity. But the fool, well, for them, the argument isn't about truth at all. It's about protecting their pride and avoiding humiliation. The stakes are deeply personal, not intellectual.
And this is the absolute crucial point. For a lot of people, losing an argument feels like a personal attack. It's a public defeat. And to avoid that feeling, a person will reject any amount of reason, any amount of evidence. Their stubbornness becomes a shield for their ego.
Ultimately, it just boils down to one thing, a single number one priority: protecting their self-image. We are all instinctively wired to cling to beliefs that make us feel good about ourselves. And for many, that instinct is way, way more powerful than any desire for objective truth. So when you challenge their beliefs, you're not just challenging an idea, you're threatening their very sense of who they are.
Now, Schopenhauer wasn't the first person to figure this out, not by a long shot. He's actually part of a long tradition of thinkers who realize that dealing with irrationality requires a totally different kind of wisdom, a wisdom that is often sneaky and indirect. I mean, think about it. You had Socrates, who would pretend to be ignorant to gently guide people to their own conclusions without making them defensive. You had King Solomon using riddles and parables, and Shakespeare's fools. They were almost always the wisest characters on stage, using comedy as a cover to speak some seriously uncomfortable truths. They all understood that a direct, head-on collision with a fragile ego is a game you just can't win.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. It's deep, it's frustrating. So what do we do about it? Well, this is where Schopenhauer offers more than just a gloomy analysis. He gives us a really practical toolkit for navigating these situations, while, most importantly, protecting our own peace of mind.
He lays out 4 core strategies. Think of these as the pillars of interacting with your sanity intact. And notice, they're not about winning the argument. They're about managing the situation to get the best possible outcome, which, a lot of the time, is just getting to keep your own serenity. First up, don't show off. Flaunting how smart you are only provokes envy and makes people defensive. Instead, keep your insights in your back pocket until they're absolutely necessary. If you can correct someone gently, give them an out to save face, you can calm a situation down instead of blowing it up.
Oh, this one is an absolute game changer. Using little phrases like, that's an interesting perspective, or, I can see why you'd think that. It costs you nothing. It's like a verbal cushion that protects the other person's ego. It diffuses their vanity and lets you sidestep a pointless battle over who's right.
You have to remember this. Walking away is not defeat. It's a tactical choice. It's a power move. There's a famous story about the ancient Greek sophist Thrasymachus, who just up and left a debate with Socrates because he realized it was a total waste of his energy. Sometimes, the smartest thing you can do is save your energy for battles that actually matter.
All right, so what happens when reason has failed, when logic is out the window? You shift your appeal from their intellect to their will. You frame your argument in terms of what's in it for them, the practical consequences, the personal risks. This taps into a much more primal motivation. It stops being about what's true and starts being about what benefits them or what they might lose.
And of course, there are other subtle tools in the box. As you can see here, gentle, Socratic-style questions are often the most effective way to help someone see a point on their own. But a little wit and irony can deliver a message without the sting of a direct attack. And sometimes just using precise, technical language can show you know your stuff and de-escalate things right away.
And all of this brings us to the most important point of all. The real objective here isn't to change someone else's mind or to prove them wrong. The true goal, the real victory, is achieving self-mastery and protecting your own inner peace.
Think of it this way. Every single frustrating conversation is actually an opportunity. It's a chance for you to practice patience, to sharpen your own skills of observation, and to exercise some serious restraint. Schopenhauer would probably tell you to reframe the whole thing. You're not dealing with an idiot. You're training yourself in the art of wisdom.
And this quote is the key to everything. Don't get tangled up in their emotional mess. Their opinion of you, their reputation of you, that's all external noise. It doesn't define you. What really matters is your internal character, your calmness, your clarity, how you choose to respond. When you maintain that inner stability, their foolishness just loses all its power over you.
So in the end, remember that intelligence isn't a weapon you use to crush an opponent. It's a shield you use to protect your own equilibrium. The goal isn't to win every fight, but to choose your battles wisely and navigate all the rest with grace.
Which leaves us with a final question to really think about. In our incredibly noisy, argumentative world, maybe the ultimate sign of intelligence isn't having the last word. Maybe, just maybe, it's knowing when to say nothing at all.